Boneriano ng tour sin miedo. Bantu maloke ko sa Timos Black. Bless!
Wako mi pueblo tacaí, tambanos taquera caíza.
Después de 10, Boneriano nang a perder turnan derecho para gobernar a mes. Gradualmente está reemplazado ture jefe al local de departamento, tanto gubernamental como no gubernamental, para otro nang. Pone Bonaire back lista de territorio nang sin propio gobernación de Naciones Unidas, ta duna nos e posibilidad de ganhar e derecho e back. Pone Bonaire back lista lo forza governo holandês para reportar tour año na Naciones Unidas tocante el desarrollo de agente local boneriano conforme ley internacional, artículo 73 de Naciones Unidas y Derecho Humano. El programa aquí, nos verdad, lo explica el proceso de poner Bonaire back lista de territorio sin propia gobernación de Naciones Unidas para sobre el pueblo de Bonaire merece lo mejor.
Wako mi pueblo tacaí, tambanos taquera caíza. Kita el lifestyle, sale grabando de Guasmain.
No tanos, bos nantingin kaya tubal. Nakeda oprimulay, inang no to super. Los tinko pipa boy ni felpa bos nambi pa super. Deseno sta binduro ni para.
Bombini, welcome everyone. Today is our day, the English speaking session on Nos Verdad. Our monthly program is called Raw Talk. With me, I have my timekeeper, Miss Daniela Bisasar. Daniela?
Hi, I'm Daniela Bisasar. I am currently a medical doctor at the Department of Cardiology in Haarlem, in the Netherlands.
Thank you, Daniela. And our two debaters, one is Mr. James Finis, everyone knows him. And then we have this young man from Holland, his name is Ilias. Welcome everyone to Raw Talk. James?
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to share this afternoon with you.
You're welcome. This radio program is well looked over. Many of my English-speaking friends can't wait to hear my radio program. And last week, we couldn't do it because we had this workshop the same weekend. And they called me and remind me what happened there. So I had to make sure I do it this Friday. So usually, the radio program is every last Friday of the month. So Elias, can you say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Ilias Vdies. I'm a public administration student from Amsterdam, the Vrije Universiteit. And I've been on Bonaire since the end of May. I'm here for 2 months to intern for Davika and James at Bonaire Human Rights. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Elias. Thank you so much. Thank you, Daniela. Daniela today is our timekeeper. So, Daniela, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So I will first explain the concept of the debate. It's called Raw Talk. This idea of this debate, Raw Talk, presented by Noske Bonaire Back, is to put attention on all fundamental and constitutional issues of Bonaire, in focus and the attention of the Caribbean and the international community. The Dutch and the Antillean community living in Holland, and especially for the Dutch politician living in Bonaire, where Mr. Finis has a chance to explain the trajectory of his vision for Bonaire and its people, where most often the Dutch and very small amount of local news media do not write Noske Bonaire Back action and press releases accurately, but change its narrative and write their version with another agenda completely opposite to the intention of Noske Bonaire Back and Mr. Finis. In order to have a balanced and objective debate, we invited a political or a person who had an idea about Bonaire and who can speak his or her opinion on James Finis and of the constitutional affairs and the basic island of Bonaire. All right. The important debate is sponsored by Bonaire Human Rights in the hope that the newly Dutch immigrants of Bonaire International and the Dutch community understand the meaning of Noske Bonaire Bak. Since most of the dialogue, Noske Bonaire Bak, was mainly in our native language Papimento, which resulted in a misconception of this group. So today and every last Friday of the month, we will do this debate in English for the Dutch listeners, for the American listeners. This important debate is sponsored by Bonaire Human Rights. We see this as an obligation to dialogue and lobby for the pursuit of the identification of a specific problem and trends affecting all members of the Bonaire society and the determination of the extent of their causes and effect, collaborating with local and international foundations and other entities with similar objective, educating and dismembering, raising awareness, and initiating unsolicited process of the implementation of all human rights of Bonaire. Okay, so I have explained a little bit on the concept of our debate. It's called Raw Talk. All right, Mr. Finis. Mr. Finis, we are ready to start? Yes?
I'm ready.
Ellis, do you have a chance to understand our concept?
If I've had the chance to understand your concept?
Yeah, yes, that I'm just reading.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay, great. See. Okay, we have some technical issues?
No? Okay.
No? Okay. All right. So, Danielle, are you ready for it? Elise, you understand the concept?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, we are ready for the first question. All right. So, Elise, the first question, you have 5 minutes to answer, and you have been here for a month.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Bonaire.
Yeah.
But before you came to Bonaire, did you know of Bonaire? Do you know of our constitutional issues? Did you have any idea, or your fellow students or your fellow friends in Holland, did they know anything about what is happening to Bonaire?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can definitely tell a short story about my experience. I think growing up in the Netherlands, especially if you go to university or even in high school, first of all, we don't have much. We don't have much history on, for example, slavery or the colonial times that happened in the Caribbean and in the Dutch Antilles. And drawing from that experience, knowing so little, you often have a closed vision on this territory. Let's just state it that way. So other than the fact that I've had some friends in high school, for example, go on holidays here, it's a really popular holiday destination. So I did know of Bonaire as a holiday destination, but it didn't go much deeper than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you know it was part of Holland? I mean, what's the constitutional status of the connection? How did you look at Bonaire with Holland, the relationship at that time?
I think that unknowingly everyone in the Netherlands just accepts the fact that Bonaire is a since 2010, obviously, Bonaire has been a municipality of the Netherlands. So that means that it falls under the Dutch constitution. So for us, it's really easy, and we just accept that as the truth. So we don't really have much questions about that.
Okay.
It's just there for us.
Okay.
And we engage with it or not.
Okay.
Doesn't go much deeper than that. Yeah.
Okay. And James, the question is how the people in Holland looked at Bonaire and how Elise and his age group looked at Bonaire. And he explained that there was not much information. So you tell us, what is the reason why you think that is?
I went through a long experience with that part because what I realized from the beginning, we will have Dutch press on the island coming to interview us. And I have so much experience to 5 minutes too short to take all that experience what I have with them. What they basically come on, they don't report the news or they report what's happening on the island. They just have, let's say, I say it like this, that they come and make an interview with you, or with a lot of people, but they will only use, let's say, one sentence of all your interview you do for 20 minutes, half an hour, even an hour, in a message they create. So if they have to say something, it's not really a news report. It's like I'll say, I can say some kind of documentary, some kind of, they set up in a way. So with that, I realized over time, I had a lot of problems with them. Last time I started telling them, I won't make this report if I don't record it myself, because you're not gonna put in the news, in a report, what I'm saying. You take my words out of context. So that happened. So what Elias is saying is the truth, because what happened, all the things happen in this island, in Holland, in the news then, not in Holland, in the news in Holland is reported completely different, completely opposite, let me say, in order to what is happening on the island. So it is a very big gap in information that's not reaching Holland. It's not reaching. What will reach Holland is always the politicians are corrupt, or who did this, so they have a big idea in Holland that all these people on this island are corrupt. Yes, that's the first thing they say. They're corrupt. Secondly, we're giving them money. There's two things they're telling them. And the rest is outside of the news.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think that resonates with me, that opinion. And that is very much the frame that is used in the Netherlands. You know, the Caribbean has a hard time right now. We're gonna give them some money, but then again, the conditionalities that come with the money are left out. And also, the corruption is a very important thing that is very much alive, that frame, that politicians here can be trusted and that they need guidance, and that this guidance can be provided by the Netherlands. So yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
Okay, so how are we going? Good for time, Daniela?
We're good on time.
We're good on time? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah.
Yes, your first night in Bonaire?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so we go on to the second question. Elias, I go first again. Okay, so are you aware that this island, or are the people in Holland are aware that this island generates over 300 million, 180 million, sorry, 180 million that, hold on, the US dollars generated by taxes, and this money goes directly to the coffers or the pockets of the Dutch government. Do you know that? Are you aware?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, why is that?
Yeah, first of all, because I didn't do research into it.
No, not only you, but generally the people, because it's an assumption that we do not generate any funds.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is the assumption, yes. So the
Yes.
assumption is that the Caribbean only costs money. And I think that that's also something that I experienced on this island, talking to Dutch people, and just talking to a lot of different types of people, because I think it's always interesting to have an open view and to just try to gain as much knowledge from different angles on this island. So obviously you have the Dutch people that work here, that migrated from the Netherlands to Bonaire. And I mean, they also live under the assumption that people here don't generally make much money, and that also the island doesn't generate as much as they receive. So there's this idea that the Netherlands obviously provides more money in funds to the Caribbean than they generate from taxes. And I mean, how can you blame us to not know? We don't get this information, and I don't think that this information is generally very accessible for us.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay, and James, you have 5 minutes to answer also that question. Why is that? How come the Dutch community doesn't understand that Bonaire generates over 150 million per year, and it goes directly to Dutch government, and it comes back as the Dutch money? Tell me.
Do I have only 5 minutes?
Yes.
Because this is very important.
Yes.
I'll try to have 5 minutes, but it's very important. First, one thing's 100% wrong. It's not possible in democracy. The Dutch government do not report on the tax expenses on this island. That's not possible in the world, but this is a unique situation in the world. Listen, Mr. Elias, it's unique I don't know if you call it unique, but it's unhuman, undemocratic, on everything, that there is no reporting and accounting to the Bonaire taxpayer on how the money is collected, what is spent to them. That's not possible in the world. That's the first thing. I'm upset on this issue, very upset, because that is the core of colonialism. But you don't account to people who pay in tax. We have no right to put them to and say what they do with our tax money, and they can't. They won't say how much. They won't say what they do with it. Says first. The second point is in this is a big lie. I call it a lie because we are not on the Dutch budget. No, the Dutch make a fund. We are run by a fund. A fund. You understand what is a fund? Mm-hmm. And that fund is not contributed by the Dutch government. What they do, they take international development aid money, put it in the fund, and with that, they run this island. And they will say it's Dutch money. That's not true. It's our money and tax they take and get international funding because we are an underdeveloped country. They get the money from the European Union. They get the money from the United Nations. All those hundreds of ways of funding by the United Nations Development Funds, because there's poverty money, they get it. You have the environmental money, that is the Nature Alliance, all those things, the funding, all those type of things. They get all that money. They make it a fund. And with that fund, they're going to tell the Bonaire people and everybody, we are helping you. It's money of us and the money. They don't take their money because Dutch are very meticulous of any penny they spend. So how come the Dutch will send a public servant to Bonaire with 2 salaries? One, to make sure that he stay here because he still have a living there, a mortgage, and other one to live here as a king. You don't miss nothing. So this afternoon, it's Friday afternoon, go to the seaside. You see all the Dutch people there. Mm-hmm. I'm not against them. Understand? This is our truth. They have double salary, not in a salary fund, but get how you call it? They get incentives for this. They get for that. So a lot of things. So they are comfortably on this island, but not with the Dutch money. No, because the Dutch doesn't waste their money.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this brings just 5 minutes. Oh, wow. We're doing good time, Dan. Thank you, Dan. All right. So we go back to Elias on the other question. The other question with Elias. Elias, I know you've been doing some research since you were here. You're here in our office. So my question is that it's not really a question. It's a question as for the listeners to know, understand this question. And it is, what Holland has to gain after 10-10-10? I know Mr. Finis also helped with the research and give some information. Mm-hmm. So if both of you can enlighten our listeners about what Holland gained after 10-10-10.
Yeah, so I think what I've learned from doing this research is obviously I think that it's generally, first of all, I would like to say that it's generally difficult to do research on it because there's so little to find on it. Okay. And that is also to blame because there's not enough funding to do research on important problems on this island. Mm-hmm. But to generally speak, the things that I've learned are, for example, I think that you have we were talking about the exclusive economic zone, mm-hmm. Which is, it's an area in the Caribbean Sea that the state gets to exploit. So the Netherlands, for example, I don't know the exact numbers anymore. The Netherlands, before they had this part of the kingdom, they had 57 kilometers to exploit in the sea, cubical kilometers, which is obviously the Noordzee. To everyone listening, and then with the Caribbean being part of the Dutch kingdom, they gained 700 cubical kilometers extra to exploit, and this includes the islands Saba, Sint Eustatius, Bonaire, obviously. So yeah, obviously you have that part. I think one thing that was most striking is I've been doing research on certain laws. For example, the Mijnenwet, which was introduced in 2019 in the second chamber in The Hague. A law that I did not know of or didn't know that existed. And this law basically gives the Netherlands the full rights over natural resources on this island, or for that matter, any other island like Sabah or St. Eustatius. And then also they get the right to take land from ownership, from someone else's ownership, if they find it important enough. So they can exploit natural resources. So if the Netherlands would find it important enough, for example, we call it an algemeen belang. If they would find it an algemeen belang, they could, and they have the right to take someone's ownership of land and exploit it. Yes.
Oh. Okay, so just a small correction. Bonaire was always part of the kingdom.
Yeah.
But it's just that we become now Sabah Station.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Bonaire.
Thank you for the correction.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that distinction of the 700 cubical kilometers and the 50 cubical kilometers in the exclusive economic area, the 700 kilometers is owed to the Caribbean Sea.
Yes. All right. So we're talking figures, and some of our listeners might not follow. But before 10-10-10, how much kilometers by sea kilometers that Holland had, so we can compare the two.
So before 10-10-10, the Netherlands had, if I'm not mistaken, 57 cubical kilometers of sea to exploit.
Say again.
57 kilometers.
57. And now they have.
Now they have extra on the 57. They have 760
Wow.
cubical kilometers to
So
exploit.
that's a very, very big difference.
It's a significant difference, yeah, and it doesn't have to be exploitation in terms of economic gains. They just own that part, so they can use it for whatever reason. This could also be for geopolitical reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, and they also will be in the front of the opening of the South American frontier, of course, South America.
I mean, yeah, that's
You can see Venezuela from here sometimes.
Yeah.
From Aruba. So it's the beginning of the South American.
it's a very strategic part. Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, Mr. James Finis. Elias, thank you. It was very interesting. Yes.
Yes, I cool down a little bit. Yes, we have a misconception about our relationship with Holland. When we say what Holland gained, that was the question. Yes, Holland has a different relationship with us than with his own people. Even we are Dutch citizens by constitution, with passport, the nationality, but we are a different kind of Dutch for the Netherlands government, and that is the whole difference between everything, because politics is trying to have you people as happy as possible because you need them to vote for you. That is politics. So that's why democracy is the best thing for people. So then there's a balance between the people and power. Because if you don't take care of your people, then you are not in power. Or you have to be a dictatorship. Some try to do it, but that doesn't hold on forever either, because the people will always be majority to rule in one way or other down the line. So I'm trying to make it in another perspective. That's with our relationship with Holland is not political, because we don't have any political influence and power on the Dutch government. So they don't have to politically worry with us. So that remains the other option is an economical political relationship, and that is what our relationship with Holland is economical relationship, and that's our other islands and our Antillean leadership are mistaken. They want to talk with the Dutch politicians as from a political human point of view, because they're politicians, they become government, they will talk with about how they'll take care of the people. Holland doesn't look at it. It's just a pure economical relationship with us, and they plan us in 50, 60, 70 years. I have planned economical plan, and our leaders here think and talk in 4 years of power they have. So we won't match ever this gap in political views between us and Holland. Coming down what it means for Holland, it was very clear said, it's economical issue. So first economical point is a territory. Colonialism and things are always about territory. It comes back down to territory, nothing else. So territory is the idea of colonialism and how you exploit territory. So that's why Holland came here, and that's why it's still here. It's not a political issue. He doesn't feel for us because he even has the courage or the force to give us equal rights of them, to look like if he care about us. So this is a very, we don't even have the same status of them. We are Caribbean Netherlands. We are not Netherlands. So are those gaps of this difference in laws and everything they do it is one main issue to have economic policies and politics with us, and that comes down to, I said, to territory, and exclusive economic zone is a clear example. The first one I put it as a clear example. What that means that I'm gonna repeat is Holland has now with the North Sea, with all the big Holland is compared to Bonaire, for example, has only 52 nautical sea miles as his zone. The other is he has to share it with Great Britain, with all the other countries around there. But here in the Caribbean, only the small island Bonaire, who costs money, it doesn't have nothing, only donkeys and corrupt politicians and some other people in it. That's how they have idea about us. Mm-hmm. But they don't say by having us, they gain the 200 sea miles, nautical miles of exclusive zone, economical zone. Mm-hmm. It's 7 times from Bonaire only, not counting Saba Station, 7 times more what they had for all those years in Europe.
So I think
7 times more.
I think with Saba and Sinter Stations it came down to like 600.
Yes,
right?
It become double. Yeah. It become double with Putin. I just counted Bonaire because the people on Bonaire
Google
only
it really quickly.
Yes, the people on Bonaire only thinking, oh, they're gonna help us, and how they say, I'm helping you. I explained already. They don't give the fund. They get fund international our funds, but they think they're helping us because it only costing them money. No, they get 7 times more unexplored, natural reserve of territory. Mm-hmm. Just by that, by the simple smile of our politicians, say, okay, happy, yeah, I say, okay, let's do it. That's why our people doesn't know, and maybe our grandchildren will understand that in the future what happened. But this is I can say it today, and maybe people won't understand it. I don't mind, but I will say it. And this is the reality, and that is nothing to do with gift of helping. Is you give? I give you a plate of food, and it take 50 years later, thousands of profit of something, because that is 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Pinnies. Thank you, Elias. So the difference between Holland, how much they had before, may I reiterate that? In Holland, how many sea?
It's 7 times less.
No, the specifics.
50. It's 52.
They had 52
nautical miles.
Nautical sea miles.
Of exclusive economic zone.
And with Bonaire?
They got 370, only Bonaire station, and Saba is only Bonaire, 370 nautical, 200 sea miles.
Okay, and they added. So it's like 4 times more than
7 times.
7 times without BES, without station, Center Station.
Yeah, so station become double again, 14 times.
Oh my
15 times
goodness.
more they have there in Europe.
Okay, so this question is only for Elias only. Elias, what do you think of that? of coming to Bonaire, seeing the roads are bad, you see the infrastructure, some of the things you can see, some you can't, like the education is not, the Bonairean child cannot speak in their own native language. There's some things you cannot see. But of course, the schools are being taught in Dutch, and it's very difficult for the kids. But how, with the infrastructure and the things, from 2010 to today, it's 10 years from that. What is your young? And I'll ask Daniela the same question. What's your idea of what you think of this situation?
Yeah, so a few things that really popped up in my experience on this island are, for example, the infrastructure. I mean, I fell off my scooter a few days ago because the roads are so bad here. So definitely the infrastructure, it's quite sad in terms of having to drive those roads every day. Something that I definitely did not expect. But I think that's something that also really popped up in my experience is the mentality that we bring here as Dutch people. Because I don't think, like, speaking to Dutch people and speaking to native Bonaireans is such a different experience.
Okay.
Dutch people really bring this mentality of, it's a kind of a superior mentality. It's kind of, we work hard. Bonaireans don't work that hard. It's something that we learn in the Netherlands, and we really radiate it everywhere that we go. And it's a very better than you type of energy that really stood out to me. And I think also just inequality very much so strikes me. When I go on a Friday night, for example, when I go to a nice bar with my friends, it's mostly Dutch white people that are there having drinks. And I think for most restaurants as well that I go to, that has really been my experience. And the most striking one, I think you asked me, what was the question?
Yes. You answered the question correctly.
Okay.
Judging from what they gain after 10 years and what you think of the whole, after 10 years, what they gain and what we have in return. Your first impression, like the roads and things, and you explained it.
Yeah, so I obviously didn't expect it to be this situation. I was expecting it to be a bit more equal, to have both Dutch people and native Bonaireans live intertwined, which I think is the case to some extent, but there's definitely a difference. And also, for example, even going to the grocery store has been such an interesting experience because everything here is so expensive. I think it's more expensive to live here than in the Netherlands, which makes it even harder for native Bonaireans that don't make much money. I think it's really, I think that's such a hard thing. Like, how would native Bonaireans survive with the minimum wage on this island, for example, being lower than in the Netherlands, much lower, and the food being more expensive? That's also a striking difference. I think that sums it up pretty well.
Okay, thank you. And Daniela, you've been living on Bonaire most of your life, and now you went to study and you're back for holidays. Did you see a difference after 10 years of 10? Or what do you think?
Oh yeah, I've been back now for a day, so I think I would be the right person to ask that.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Yeah, she's being very political today, so I'll let her do her duty as a timekeeper. How are we doing for time?
We're good on time.
Yes, very good on time. Okay, great. So we will continue. James, what do you think of Elias' answers to the question?
Okay.
After 10 years, we have nothing substantial to look at. What are the good things you know that happen on Bonaire, and what are the bad things? Or no infrastructure on the island, the children are forced to speak in another language, and all those atrocities as human rights activists, I think. What do you think?
I will say from another perspective. I don't like this conversation on this level because embedderment is a colonial terminology. Betterment, getting better, is a terminology of colonialism and slavery. People have human rights. So when you tell me what is better, get better, I get so worried and so upset that I can tell you nothing. Meaning I cannot express my anger, because then you're telling me you are helping me with something. You doing something better for me. No, I'm born with rights. And this is my right, this is my right, this is right. Don't tell me nothing about better. This is my right when that right will be reached. You didn't put nothing, I don't need nothing from you to make me better.
Yes.
Because then you will tell me you make me better.
Right.
And that is happening now too. That's what I tell the people, you complaining, this got better. What they tell me all the time, you complaining, look what got better. Sorry, I have a right. I do nothing for you to get better. If I didn't have a right, I won't even be sitting here today. Because I can work for myself to do the things I should do for myself to get better. But this is another level of taking advantage of our people that don't know their rights and do not understand history and understand the word, simple word, better is a colonial terminology. I know we don't gonna deal with it today, this conversation, but when you ask me this question, I have to answer from my best inner, that I don't go in the game of saying, oh, they fixed that. No, have a right. And now I'm happy that we start talking about, let's say, Article 73. That is right, it's an obligation of Holland as a colonizer in our right, and that entails all the developments, and I can mention them down. Our island has the right to be at a level of Bermuda, for example, who is a non-self-governing territory, is not independent, is still fall under colonial administration. And Bermuda, at this time in the world, they have a GDP of over $100,000. That means their life is 4 times better than us, and they have their own people governing them. So,
And it's still a colony.
yes. So
Yes.
When you talk about betterment things, sorry, I don't participate in that thing, because it's only to keep you in the state you are, you feel okay. Oh, they will give me tomorrow 2 glasses of water. No, I have a right to have my own water plant. Don't give me water. It's my right. It's a simple example. So I can talk all afternoon about this, but I think if it's understanding what I said or not, I will explain it in the future back.
Okay.
Betterment is a colonial terminology
Okay.
to keep the people not understanding their rights.
Okay. And how are we doing for time, Dan? He has 1 more minute?
Yes, 2 minutes.
Okay, great. Mr. Finis, I want to ask a second question. Rights. Why is it not the people of Bonaire, the native Bonairean, feel that ideology that we have to get, Holland has to help us, versus their rights? What is missing, in your opinion, for them to be understanding that they have rights? What is the, tell us a little more in your 2 minutes about why.
2 minutes, fine.
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. What I analyze myself is that we come from a colonial history, from a slave history, and quickly when our owners give us food, right? We have to look up to them because they keep us alive, and then after that, when they change it to democracy, the similar owners become leaders, political leaders. So it shifted from another relationship, but the dependency state, and it called political patronage. Patronage. I don't know what you say in English.
Patriotism. Patriotism.
No patriotism. Patronage.
Patronizing. Okay, patronizing.
Meaning,
Yes. Yeah, I understand.
meaning,
Yes.
That I vote for you. You give me a land. You give me a job, and then I don't need to know about rights. The only thing I have to do, vote for you. I'm okay. So what is right? Now, when the politicians don't have power, now we don't know what to do, because we were never taught by our leaders about rights and stuff like that. We only taught, vote for me, and you'll be okay. I will take care of you and your family. And if doesn't matter if you lose this election, maybe the next time you still have a chance to recover back. So the word rights was not in the vocabulary of in the education of the people through the leadership. The only thing they tell them, be loyal, fight against those because they keep them off the power, and so we fight with each other instead of building a nation. We miss the most essential part by emancipation. Yesterday was Emancipation Day. After emancipation comes nation building. We never went in this island on the terminology of nation building. We only went to political partnership and power. And there was every 2 years was an election. Nobody ever thought what will be the future of this country in 20 years, 50 years. Yes, 60 years later, there was no country. It was destroyed. So that happened with us. So our right was to build a nation. Our right, people, as a right, our kids should have born in a nation, then they keep empowering themselves, building up. We missed that. So we can talk a lot problem about this, but this
Thank
is
you, Mr.
shortly,
Phineas. Thank you.
that we missed it.
Yes, thank you so much. And I hope to our listeners that you are following us, our local Bonairean natives also. I hope you're understanding us a little bit too. And I find it very exciting and interesting, this topic about nation building. I'm from the Caribbean, English-speaking Caribbean, and I could relate to nation building.
We destroyed nation. We didn't nation building, sorry.
No, I like the idea that you said.
Nation destroying, not nation building.
Yes. So you are missing the part of nation building, because I think what you're trying to say to
Netherlands and Terres, instead of building a nation.
I think the politicians are only really focusing every 4 years. So every 4 years you have elections, so they have to, when they got in power, they have to work hard to get in power again or stay in power. And that nation building concept is missing. Thank you for your explanation, Mr. James. Okay, Elias, I come back to you. Are you alive?
I'm still alive.
Yeah?
Yes.
You enjoying this program?
Definitely. Very interesting.
All right. Okay, and so Elias, the question to you is, okay, so 2010 happened in Bonaire, Holland, suddenly in your eyes, Bonaire is part of Holland. So that's a special municipality, yes? Okay, so in 2000, did you people in Holland understood the annexation with unequal rights in 2017? Did they understand that it was illegally annexed? We never chose integration. Was that ever a thought that you guys know that?
So in 2010, I was 15 years old, so I was definitely not busy following news. So no, the answer is no.
Okay, and so if you're 15, 2010, then it's 2017, you will be 17, right?
2017, I think I was...
No, 2017, yeah.
I think I was 20. 21 at the time, yeah.
So your friends come to holiday on Bonaire, and you know it's a holiday destination. But did your people or you or your friends ever understood that we were illegally annexed?
No, I think not. And also I think that that's something that you see with most Dutch people here. You know, you can't really blame them because they come here because the system allows them to come here. So, I mean, you can't point at them and tell them that they're doing something wrong because they're not. So that's something that I would like to emphasize, because if I wouldn't have come here to intern for you, I wouldn't have known either. And I would have come here on holiday maybe, and I would have had the best time of my life. And I would have left without any clue about the situation on this island. So I think what's really important is that people get to know what's happening on a, we call it laagdrempelig, so it doesn't have to... I mean, it would be nice for a start in the Netherlands to raise some awareness, which we are trying to do now, so that people start talking about it and take it from there. I think there's just too little people that know about the situation, so that's my answer. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. So had you not come into Bonaire on the work,
I don't think I would have.
you would
Maybe I
understand.
would have jumped into it in another way, or I mean, I already had some interest in colonialism, neo-colonialism, but not specifically Bonaire. No.
No. So it's just like with my experience in the United Nations when we went in 2016 and 2017. The United Nations ambassadors, UN ambassadors from those countries did not understood that either. They actually thought that we had equal rights, like Holland,
Yeah.
and equal pension, equal salary, pension, salary, minimum wage, equal all the rights and the advantages that Holland possessed, that the Bonaireans had it, the same as Guadeloupe, the French islands, Guadeloupe and all the other French islands in the Caribbean. So they were always also so surprised. And James, my question to you is, why is it's just a secret about illegal annexation of Bonaire, and why, as you say, and I know too, the people living here even doesn't understand it. The Dutch people doesn't understand it. Was it was there a missing part of your of the constitutional status that wasn't spoken about by the people? It was not enough information that it was illegal annex, and who annexed Bonaire in 2017? Can you answer me those two questions if possible, quickly in 5 minutes? Yeah, we have how much? Yes, we're almost there, James. We are 5:51.
Okay, so the first part is, yes, they make a political discussion on an issue that is from a whole nation. Self-determination shouldn't be a political party discussion. So the first thing happened. So we had to make mistake on Bonaire and the other islands to make self-determination discussion a political discussion. So. Because first, self-determination doesn't belong to politicians. That's the first problem we have on this island to understand it's a right of every people. So it becomes political discussion, so you're going to choose sides. When you choose sides, there will be division. So I will say this, the other will say that. So what I said just now, instead of nation building, what self-determination stands for, wherever you stand together to do something, no. One will go there, one other group want to go there. And normally in other countries, they divide the country by two. So you want to go there, you stay there, but the people have the right to build, not to keep fighting each other. After we have a war, and who wins, take over. But here, we live to each other, and I say this, and I say that. That first part. Our politicians mess this up first. So they won't look at it, and they don't understand what they're doing.
Okay, let's do a quick wrap up. So the second question is the illegal annexation, how that happened, and who did that? Because that was after 2010.
Okay, that is...
and that our English listeners really want to understand that.
Okay. That is there's two parts. One is the Dutch government in Holland. The second chamber decided that to incorporate Bonaire and Saba and Statia in the constitution in Bonaire against the people wish, because the people of this island never choose for this. No, they even rejected in the two referenda. In the last referendum, they rejected it overwhelming 66%. So internationally, this is an illegal thing. You only impose things like that by force, because you have power, you oppress people. In other countries, why there are wars.
Who did it? In a quick minute.
The first part, the Holland Parliament decided, despite the people's decision on the island to go ahead, and our island also, a group of politicians tell Holland it's okay. Just as I said, we are divided.
First chamber and the second chamber.
First
to change a constitution of people.
It's happened by the first chamber.
First chamber.
No, second chamber first make the law.
Yes.
Yes. And then the first chambers check the legality of the law and then ratify the law.
No, the second chamber make the law, and the Bonairean Parliament
agree to say, okay, no worry, let it happen, because they have no say, however, but they say, okay, Holland, go ahead. And then the first chamber and sealed it.
Okay, so let me understand it, because my listeners always ask me this question. So because they're saying, what happened? How come the people choose fit? I've been all over the Aruba, Curacao, St. Martin, and everybody under the impression that Bonaire chose this, but Bonaire never chose it. The first chamber decided to annex Bonaire, the second chamber.
Yes.
Then it came to the Bonaire politicians in the parliament in 2017, and they agree to
continue
to annex Bonaire.
To continue
And who
with
was those people in the parliament, the local parliament?
At the day, I think, I still remember the day because there was
I know, we were both there, because I was there.
I was there the day, and it was a heavy day for me. I tell them, you sold us the same, they sold us in Africa, how many years? You sold us again. I remember it was Michael Peters, Januska Rafaela, Cyril Vrolijk, Joselito Stasia was the one who voted for, and Elvis Shineshu and Clark Abraham were there with them as the leader. So I tell
And
you,
the political parties from Elvis Chinchu
was
is?
MPB. And Clark, that was the DP party.
Clark who?
Clark is from the DP
Clark,
party.
last name?
Abraham.
Okay, so listeners, now you understand, in 2017, our
agree
local
with this.
politicians agree after the second chamber made that law. Then the local politicians in Bonaire, which is the MPB and the DP party, agreed to annex Bonaire without equal rights. So we don't have equal rights because of our local politicians in 2017. And then the first chamber. After that, the first chamber
Just ratify it,
Ratify
make it
it.
legal and publish and make it. That is how the law works. A law works. A second chamber write it and put it on to second chamber to check it and ratify
Okay.
it and go.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr.
now,
Finney.
last thing.
Yes.
Why this is not known to? Because our media never took this as a important issue
Okay.
to continue to say this is wrong.
Okay, James, we will continue this topic
is the problem
next
that
end of the month.
the island doesn't know.
Okay, I'll make it that top question another time, next time, so we can still talk about this. Our listeners to get more information. So I would like to say to Elise his final words, and Daniela and James final words, because we have only 4 minutes more.
Some final words are that it has been a really interesting experience to be on this island. I hope that there will be some more equality on this island in the coming few years, and that you will continue your fight for your human rights as a nation and as an island. And I'm here for another month. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Elise. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Mr. Finis, you like your final word? Sorry.
Yes. Yes, thank you to come and understand and say it in your own words. I hope it will help to raise some more awareness. And thank you also, Davika, for having this program in English language, because we have been isolated from the Caribbean. Isolated from the Caribbean, the world. I hope this help to some clearance, and it's all about rights. We are born equal in rights and dignity. That's the only thing I stand up, and that's the only thing I will keep fighting up to, our rights to be respected, nothing else.
Thank you, Mr. Finis. Miss Daniela Bisasar, how did you enjoy it?
For my first real talk, I thought it was quite enlightening from all the speakers. I did not have much to say, but I listened very well to each and one of you. One thing I would like to say is, for me, it's an eye-opener. I know all of this because I am quite connected with all of you, but I am pretty sure that a lot of my peers and people younger than me are not aware of this. So I hope, because everything that has been done by the politicians, the consequences and all the repercussions and everything that will become from this, we are the ones who are going to, if it's fruits or rotten fruits, we are the ones who will have to live with this as we get older. So I would hope that all my peers and the younger generation come to know of this.
Thank you, Daniela. And listeners, thank you for staying with us for 1 hour. And if you'd like to hear this radio program, a repeat version, you can look at our website, Bonaire Human Rights Organization. It's on website.org. Yes. So it's Bonaire Human Rights Organization.org. You can look at that on our website and also Facebook page and of course Voice de Bonaire. Thank you, Feliciano, for having us. Thank you for allowing me and everyone here in your studio speaking English. Thank you, everyone. So until next month, last Friday. See you then. Bye-bye.
Junta e guia para nos líder de turno, awe nos ta abri wowo, hanya nos de cerca que nos no que tá. Com pouco conhecimento de próprio passado e sem nenhuma ideia onde tá vai, ta unco só ta manter-nos na vida. Come e lembre. Nós está come nos mesmos rumang para quedar na vida anto lembe estrangeiro que recuta ta manter-nos na vida. Come e lembre tá na moda hoje em dia. Boneriano tá critica boneriano. Família tá lastra família. Vizinha tá brinca vizinha. Anto tá elogia esum kuna nossa niki pato abruye. Mi tá vai mais leu ainda. Riba instrução, nos líder na local tá dobla dentro esquina e boh, come nos mes rumang, purba frustra e luta que tá iba para nos tur, diz para complacer algum estrangeiro, que nós não sabemos tá kiko tá na verdadeira intenção.
Esse no que me